For decades, the world of combat has been haunted by a single question. Was Bruce Lee merely an illusion, a cinematic flash of muscle, motion, and mystique? Or was he something far more profound? To some, he was a movie star, a martial arts choreographer who brought philosophy to fight scenes and poetry to violence. But to others, he was the real deal. A visionary who transcended the celluloid screen to touch something elemental about the human condition. He was lightning in human form, moving through bamboo forests and narrow alleys with the grace of a panther and the precision of a blade. Yet, even as his legend grew, the question lingered like smoke after fire. Was he real? Could he have stood in a ring, not of cameras, but of fists and willpower? Half a world away, in Brooklyn, another legend was beginning to take shape. A boy named Mike Tyson, forged by hardship, anger, and hunger, would rise from chaos to become one of the most feared men to ever step into a boxing ring. If Bruce Lee was the philosopher warrior, Tyson was the embodiment of raw, unfiltered violence. And yet, their stories, divided by oceans, language, and time, would one day intersect in a way no one could have predicted. One man mastered control through calm. The other conquered fear through destruction. Two lives separated by death, but joined by purpose. The relentless search to master not the opponent, but the self. It is within this unlikely connection that the story unfolds. The year is 1973. Bruce Lee, already a global phenomenon, stands at the summit of martial arts cinema. Enter the Dragon is about to premiere, a film that will define generations. Lee's body is compact, carved, disciplined to perfection, but it is his mind that towers like a mountain. He doesn't merely punch or kick. He thinks movement, feels rhythm, embodies awareness. He invents Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist, not as a fighting style, but as a philosophy of adaptation and flow. Be water, my friend, he says. Water can flow, or it can crash. Be formless, shapeless, like water. In that single metaphor, Lee captures the secret of combat and life itself. Adaptability, responsiveness, and inner stillness amid chaos. And while Lee's words ripple through cinema screens and martial arts dojos, in a small gym in Brooklyn, a young Mike Tyson is throwing punches against poverty, against pain, against invisibility. He doesn't yet know the name Bruce Lee, but the spirit of that philosophy, the search for mastery, the battle within, is already flowing through his veins. Mike Tyson's story is born not from opportunity, but from survival. He grows up in a world where weakness invites punishment. The streets of Brownsville are an arena. The fights are real, and the lessons are cruel. He learns early that fear can either consume or propel you. When the legendary trainer Cus D'Amato takes him under his wing, Tyson begins to understand that true power lies not in rage, but in control. A lesson that echoes, unknowingly, the very heart of Bruce Lee's teachings. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, Bruce Lee's flame burns brighter and hotter. The world cannot look away. He is more than an actor now. He is a symbol. Western audiences are captivated not just by his speed, but by his serenity. His words, half poetry, half philosophy, reach beyond the martial arts. The successful warrior, he says, is the average man, with laser-like focus. And yet, behind the sharp eyes and the philosophical calm, there is tension. He pushes his body to impossible limits. He battles pain, fatigue, and the weight of expectation. Fame, for Lee, is not a reward. It is a cage. Tyson's cage is different. His is built from anger, from the desire to destroy before being destroyed. But under D'Amato's guidance, something changes. The boy who once fought for survival begins to fight for mastery. He studies tapes of old boxers, Jack Dempsey, Floyd Patterson, and learns how to turn fear into fuel. Cus teaches him visualization, the art of mental readiness. Before you step in that ring, Cus tells him, you're already a champion. You've already seen the outcome. Tyson listens, and something stirs. It is the first echo of philosophy within a fighter's heart. The paradox of Tyson's rise mirrors Lee's essence: stillness within speed, purpose within aggression. For both men, combat is not chaos, it is clarity. Lee said, "In the middle of chaos lies opportunity." Tyson would one day embody that truth. When he steps into the ring at age 20 and becomes the youngest heavyweight champion in history, his punches carry not only the force of muscle, but the precision of meditation. His movement, tight and compact, is almost Lee-like, the explosion that follows stillness. In 1973, Bruce Lee's heart stops. The world stops with it. He is 32, a global icon gone in an instant. Rumors swirl, myths multiply. But beneath the conspiracy theories, one truth remains. Bruce Lee had already transcended flesh. His ideas were now immortal. Across decades, through books, films, and whispers, his philosophy continued to ripple outward, influencing not just martial artists, but thinkers, athletes, and dreamers. Tyson, years later, finds himself drawn to one of those ripples. After a brutal fight, his body aching, his mind restless, he stumbles upon an old clip. Bruce Lee speaking on self-mastery. The enemy, Lee says, is not the other man. It is your own barrier, fear, doubt, hesitation. Tyson rewinds the tape, watches again. For the first time, he sees himself reflected not in another boxer, but in a martial artist from a different world. Tyson would later say in an interview, "Bruce Lee had an awesome philosophy on life. It blew me away. Bruce Lee was a killer. He liked to fight for real. No drama, no fake." What Tyson saw in Lee was not choreography. It was truth. The realization that a warrior's first and greatest opponent is himself. For Tyson, who had lived through rage, fame, prison, and downfall, that insight hit deeper than any punch. He began to understand that his own violence had always been a mask, a way to hide from fear. Lee's teachings tore that mask apart. Be water suddenly meant something more. It wasn't just about fluidity of motion, but fluidity of the mind, the ability to adapt, to survive, to evolve. And so, the iron found meaning in the dragon. The boxer who once terrified opponents now turned inward, seeking peace, reflection, and redemption. Tyson began reading more, thinking more, understanding that fighting wasn't merely physical, it was existential. It was about transcending ego, exactly as Lee had taught. As Tyson's career evolves, his understanding of combat deepens. He begins to see what Lee had seen decades before, that fighting in its purest form is a mirror. Every punch thrown is a conversation with the self. Every round survived is an act of introspection. Tyson starts to integrate elements of Lee's mindset into his own approach. Not physically, but mentally. He controls breathing. He visualizes victory not as dominance, but as self-expression. Fear, he later says, is my friend. Without fear, I would be nothing. Those words could easily have come from Bruce Lee himself. Commentators continue to debate Bruce Lee's reality. Could he have survived in the octagon, in the ring, against the true monsters of the sport? Tyson's response dissolves that argument entirely. It's not about the size or the setting, he implies. It's about the mind. Lee's arena was philosophy, Tyson's was blood and canvas, yet both fought the same enemy, limitation. Tyson recalls moments after great victories when he would sit in silence, drenched in sweat and adrenaline, asking himself, "What now?" That question, he says, came from Bruce Lee, because for Lee, there was always another step. No triumph was final. The journey was infinite. The discipline of perpetual growth, the humility to remain a student, these became Tyson's quiet inheritance from the man he never met. And in that recognition, something profound occurs. Tyson, the feared predator of the ring, begins to shed his myth of invincibility and embrace vulnerability, not weakness, but awareness. He begins to speak more of philosophy, redemption, peace. The transformation is complete. The iron had found stillness, guided by the echo of the dragon. In the twilight of both legacies, one concluded by fate, the other transformed by reflection, we find the essence of their bond. Tyson's revelation about Bruce Lee does not resolve an argument. It elevates it. He isn't saying, "Bruce Lee could beat me." He is saying, "Bruce Lee taught me how to understand myself." That single truth reframes everything we thought we knew about power. Because power, as both men learned, is not found in domination, but in awareness. Bruce Lee's real fight was never against opponents. It was against boundaries, cultural, mental, physical. He fought to redefine what it meant to be human. Tyson's fight, decades later, mirrors that same battle. From rage to control, from chaos to clarity, he too becomes proof that the fight never ends when the bell rings. It continues, in the mind, in the spirit, in the silence that follows applause. In the final analysis, the story of Bruce Lee and Mike Tyson is not about who hit harder, who trained longer, or who won more titles. It is about two men from opposite worlds who discovered the same truth. The enemy is within. And when conquered, that enemy gives birth to peace. As the lights fade, the gloves hang, and the world grows quiet, we are left with their shared message, that the real fight is the one for meaning. The real victory is the freedom to become. Bruce Lee, the lightning-fast philosopher who moved like water. Mike Tyson, the iron-hearted boxer who found light in darkness. Together, they remind us that the art of fighting is the art of becoming.